Barack Obama is not the only one campaigning for change. A group of Orange County Republicans are fed up with the current leadership in Washington, D.C., and they've threatened to cut GOP legislators off from a large flow of contributions unless they see change. We welcome the president of the Lincoln Club of Orange County, Richard Wagner, along with the Lincoln Club chairman, Tracy Price. Thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, Ann.
We're glad to have you on. All right, Richard, give us just a quick overview of the Lincoln Club.
And the Lincoln Club is comprised of men and women who are business owners, professionals, and executives committed to three things: limited government, low taxes, and free enterprise. And the Lincoln Club is not so much a political group as it is a business group that tackles political issues. And over the past 46 years, the Lincoln Club has been at the forefront of helping to support some of the most important local, state, and national candidates and issues, and many times has made a difference.
I think for the most part, when people hear of the Lincoln Club, they think conservative. Is that a correct assessment, Tracy?
I would say center-right. You get, I would take independents all the way through moderate to conservative Republicans, but I think it's a pretty broad spectrum. I know we tend to get labeled and tagged with being the gerontocracy and clipping coupons for trust funds, but that's certainly not me.
No, not necessarily the case. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, in my introduction where I said that pretty much the Lincoln Club is fed up with spending in Washington, D.C. Explain a little bit more. Richard, you wrote a very interesting article about this very thing.
We are interested in getting the Republican Party back to its basic roots of fiscal responsibility and smaller government. We wrote an article to try to bring attention to what we can perceive to be the problem, and that is that the Republican Party, we thought, was supposed to be the party of fiscal responsibility, of smaller government, of less spending. But over the last decade or so, Republicans in Congress have gone way off that track. And so we sort of have lobbed a grenade, I guess, into this discussion to try to get this discussion going, not only here locally, but nationally.
Well, Tracy, how's the party gotten so far away from the roots of limited government?
I think it's the absolute power corrupts absolutely. When we take trips back to D.C., when we're not in power, we have a lot of people who want to talk to us. When we're in power, we have to make a reservation 3 months in advance to see our congressman, not the local guys, but the national guys. I think the good news of what we're trying to do, though, is that we're saying this now. We're not waiting till November 5th and whining about the outcome. We hope if we create some change now, we put people on notice, we create a national movement, and I told Rich, it's the classic butterfly flaps its wings, and somewhere back in D.C. there's a hurricane. We're hoping that that happens and that other groups join us across the country.
Now, when looking to make change, though, I mean, that's a pretty broad statement. Do you have specific talking points that if you could meet one-on-one with your congressman, and whether it's an appointment or not, would you say, look, we'd really love to see this, this, and this happen?
John Campbell wrote a great article about a month ago. The federal government is looking this year at a $475 billion deficit. That's almost $500 billion, and that doesn't include the $180 billion they're going to steal from the Social Security Fund. There is a huge spending problem in government. And what we're saying is that it is incumbent upon the Republicans in Congress to stand up on the mountaintop and yell and scream and jump up and down and say something about this. Where is the outrage over this? We're not seeing it. So that's our message.
Why don't you think there is as much outrage as one would hope there would be?
Well, there's a lot of reasons, but I think that over time, starting from 1994, when the Republicans took control of Congress with the Contract with America, they were, in the first 100 days, they passed 9 of the 10 things that they had in the contract. But over a couple of year period, they ended up with a problem with the fact that the government was shut down. Bill Clinton was able to get on top of that issue over the Republicans, and I think that at that point they sort of lost their nerve. And they got into having to not only govern, which meant in Washington that means pass legislation, but then they got into re-election pressures, which means bring home the pork, and I think they lost their revolutionary zeal. And during the balanced budgets of the 90s, I think it was an easy money time, and they didn't have to worry about it.
Tracy, what's been a response from around the country and also from the local politicians?
Local politicians have been mixed. I think they've all been appreciative of the fact that somebody's saying something now. I think some of them would like the message to change a little bit. But the bottom line is The response has not been tepid across the country. There have been people sending cards and letters and emails from every part of the country. We recognize the Lincoln Club has bona fides from conservatives here in California, a little bit around the country, but the response has been rather overwhelming. We put together a new site called spirit94.org, which everybody can go to, see the articles and like-minded individuals who are contributing commentaries. We're going to be featuring a different congressional leader or senator called our Profiles in Fiscal Courage. So these are the guys that actually stood up, did the right thing, and didn't bring all the pork home. And we're not saying that none of it can happen, but you know, the people building the monuments to me or the bridges to nowhere, or the fact that, you know, under Bush, I think it was more compassion than conservatism and got way off track. It's time to return to the Republican principles, not, you know, Reagan bashing, which we've seen lately in the paper, but back to the fundamentals that everybody understands from Econ 1.
Right.
You know, and that's just, it's not where everybody's been governing from.
The problem is the spending. Earmarks are the poster child of all of that. They're the symbol. They're the symbol that everybody talks about and everybody can readily see. Bridges to nowhere, as Tracy mentioned, that type of thing. But it's all about the spending and getting back to the basics of fiscal responsibility and smaller government. When
you talk about putting an end to some of the large contributions if you don't see change, how much are we talking about?
The Lincoln Club, every election cycle has about $1 million to spend, along with individual members who give anywhere from another $2 to $3 million. And so, you know, a lot of that money goes to local, a lot goes to state races, but a lot goes to federal races. We've had, I think, 5 fundraisers this year for United States senators that have come through Orange County.
Right.
We give money to congressmen and congresswomen, you know, across the country. So I don't have a dollar amount, but it can be considerable.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, LincolnClub.org is the Lincoln Club website.
Correct.
What was the website you mentioned again, Tracy?
Yeah, spirit94.org is the Return to Sanity website that we're trying to promote, and you can get there from the Lincoln Club or from redcounty.com.
You can. Okay, redcounty.com is another one. Very good. Thank you both for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
All right.